What's up, you bloody legends? That was a quick intro. We're on. I didn't get this thing prepped properly, but now I have. It's bloody prepped all good now. Get the sound all good. This thing's all fucked up because I haven't done a solo one in a while. What is up, guys? What is up, you fucking legends? How is life? How is everything? How's the world? Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. It's been a wicked ride. This is how out of touch I am. I'm actually just looking at the camera, making sure that the thing's still fucking recording. Guys, we are back. I have been so excited for this. It is a solo podcast. I've actually had time to sit down with me, by myself, with my thoughts. Yes, it's so exciting. It's been a wild couple of weeks. I've had not tons. I've had a heap of guests, so I haven't really had time for solo podcasts. But now I finally have time to sit down, and I just have so many fucking cool ideas because I've just been sitting around doing fucking nothing because it's quarantine season, it's coronavirus season, it's COVID-19. It's just fucking stay inside time, and yeah, it's been really weird. I think I've been busy enough. I've definitely been busy enough that I feel as though I haven't actually, how do you say it? I haven't actually gone too insane yet because I've just been super busy with making myself busy. So yeah, it's been wild. Obviously, there's been a whole bunch of different shit going on. It's been about 2 weeks since I've done these, so half the notes that I've written are just completely irrelevant now. So I've got my phone here. I'm going to read the notes out very shortly. I don't really want to go on any notes because I've got plenty to talk about. But yeah, as I always do, let's do the weekly mental health check-in on the Hermit. I feel great. I feel confused, but great. It's the whole world is obviously in a situation that it's never been in. I don't really want to talk about Corona all the time because I feel like everything is about Corona now and I want to be different. But yeah, so obviously work's a little bit different with online learning going on, and that's just a mission in itself. I don't really want to talk too much about work, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. So spare a moment for the teachers and spare a moment shout out to all the parents. I've had a couple communications with parents of my students, and they're really doing amazing things. Majority of them are doing amazing things, and obviously doing something that's out of their comfort zone as well. So I feel like my experiences with it have been mostly positive, which is excellent. It seems like a lot of parents, although this is a different sort of realm for them, a lot of them are up for the challenge, which is amazing. And I mean, we're all in the same boat, realistically, even if that boat is the fucking Titanic and we're about to hit an iceberg and all fucking sink. But the kids want to go back, the parents want to go back, and believe it or not, we miss. I feel like I speak for the majority of teachers. We all miss our kids. I hate the fact that these kids have to email me every so often and be like, "Sir, I really want to come back in." I'm like, "Look, I would love you guys to be here, but unfortunately you can't." And yeah, so that's been interesting. The whole social isolation has been very interesting, seeing less and less people, but also communicating via different methods. So, for example, obviously the podcast has kind of changed up a little bit in that we've been doing a lot of Zoom. We've been doing a lot of Zoom podcasts, which is, I don't know, for me, that was a challenge that I sort of overcome pretty quickly. Like I did a lot of research and I had a lot of friends doing Zoom podcasts. So I feel like I could get good information from them. And I actually sort of have really liked the adding that Zoom podcast to my sort of toolbox, I guess, because there's obviously going to be some people that I want to interview and it's just almost physically impossible for them to be in the studio. My air quotations up there, they obviously can't get to my house or be in my house because especially during isolation, but yeah, it's been amazing. It's been so good. And yeah, so that's been great. I feel great, and I hope everyone else is feeling good too. I've spoken to a couple people, mates, and sort of, I would say, I guess it's weird saying acquaintances, but people that I don't talk to all the time, but I still like to check in on and talk to. So it's been good. I feel like a lot of people that I know are doing okay. But yeah, I guess the mental health check-in for the week is just check on your mates. Do your best to check on your mates. Give them a message. Even give them a phone call on the way home from work if you're still working, or things like that. I think things like that go a long way, and those are the sorts of things that I don't know. I feel like are coming back now. Like I don't really feel lame or annoying if I give my mates a phone call home on the way home from work. But yeah, so anyway, that is my life up until now. The podcast has been going great. I have done a couple interviews, and the interviews have been fantastic. Obviously, I did the lockdown in Japan with Kate. That was super interesting. I did the government quarantining with Maddie, which, to be completely honest, that was one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done. We sort of did it spur of the moment, and to hear Maddie's side of it in a realm of life that I never would have even assumed would have been like that. Like I sort of had the idea of talking to her about sort of her experiences inside quarantine, but sort of I really underestimated her experiences actually in London hospitals, like as a healthcare worker. So those stories, I think that was a podcast where sometimes I even forgot I was actually recording. I was so into the conversation. So that was really sick, and I'm glad a lot of people sort of liked that one as well. And obviously I did the one with Connor from Bugs, which was a huge deal for me because I am a huge Bugs fan. So the fact that he just gave up the time to talk to me was unbelievable, and that's a testament to him and the guys in the band. That's the kind of people they are, you know. He would have got realistically, like he wouldn't have gained followers or anything like. Well, I'm hoping he did, but you know, Bugs wouldn't have gained any followers. I should sell myself short, I guess, but you know, he did that out of, you know, I've been a massive supporter of the band, and you know, being able to sit down with someone who, you know, you watch them play music and you're so, you know, I have him playing in my car at least once a week. Like that's wild. And for me, that was a huge step into what I want this podcast to be about. And I fucking loved talking to him, man. It was so interesting. The whole podcast was just, I didn't even have to talk. I was just so, I guess, like enthralled in what he was saying that I sometimes I forget. I'd be like, oh fuck, I need to think of like something else to talk about. But it was amazing, and I'm really stoked that he took the time out to chat to me. So, you know, if you are into that sort of music, go follow Bugs. They're fucking unreal dudes, and they play such good music. So, yeah, really positive, really positive. Let's fucking get into this phone. Let's get into my notes. I wrote down, so over the course of this a couple of weeks, I've sort of written down some shit. This is the first time I'm looking at it in about 8 or 9 days. So I haven't really looked at these things. Fucking hell. Okay, what do we got here? Talking about my gap year and all the shitty jobs that I used to do to get through before I started uni. That's a fucking great topic, that one. Here we go. The Indian or / Pakistani guy who was the security guard at Woolworths who was a massive tripper. I think I remember what I'm talking about there. That was sick. I'll tell you that story in a minute. When I started talking to Qaude Cooper and got nervous and ended up looking like an idiot. I know exactly what I did there. That'll be a fucking great story too. And here's a fucking tops one. I don't even know what was going on here. When you see someone else's skid marks at a public toilet. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about there, but I'm assuming I could make something out of it. I don't know. All right, let's start off nice and easy. I'm going to do a podcast next solo podcast I'm going to do. I'm going to do probably about my shitty gap year. I'll literally call it my shitty gap year. Because I did some fuck jobs, like just some shit jobs that I'm just like, what the fuck? I literally, you know those jobs you do as like part-time where you're just like, I'm only doing this for the money. And you know, some of the characters I used to work with. I used to work with a guy who was, oh man, he was such a tripper. Actually, all the guys I worked with were mad trippers. Like, yeah, I don't know. They were just fucking spacey cats. Anyway, the Indian guy that was at the security guard at Woolworths down the road. Here's a story for you. Story time with the hermit. Jump on in, strap yourselves in. This is going to be a fucking good one. So, as most of you know, because of coronavirus and all that sort of shit, Woolworths have ended up putting like security guards on the doors, obviously to stop people from stealing toilet paper because 90% of the population are fucking stupid. So I usually have a yarn to the security guards because when Kia and I go for a walk, we go down to the local Woolies and I usually have the dog with me, and so we usually send one of us in. And plus, it's I guess, you know, to minimize the people in the shop. There's no reason for me to be in there anyway. And yeah, I was talking to this security guard, man. And from the moment I saw this Seki, you know how you get a vibe from people? I guess the way I look at it is if I wasn't at the point in my life where I am now, where I'm intrigued by everybody, like I'm fascinated by the way everyone's brains work, I probably would have brushed him off and been like, I don't really want to talk to you, you weirdo. But he comes out and I was holding my dog and he did the weirdest, he was a real lanky dude and he did this real lanky step over this sort of planter bed, like this little garden bed. It was real weird, the fact that this dude sort of just came out of doing his job and was like, yeah, fuck, yeah, hey, can I pet your dog? And I was like, righto, dude, go for it, man. And anyway, he asked me, he was like, hey, dude, do you know anyone that is selling a moped? And in my head, I was like, why the fuck is this guy asking me? Like, do I look like someone that knows people? I probably do. It's maybe like a hipster thing. But he was asking me about like whether I knew people that owned fucking like mopeds or some shit. And I was like, nah, bro, like I don't fucking know. He's like, yeah, well, I'm moving around the area. Mind you, he's doing this in an Indian accent where I think English, he's only just learnt English. I got that vibe from him. And it was like a fucking puzzle piece to try and decipher what he was saying, really. And anyway, he's like, yeah, I want to move to this area and I want to sell my car and buy a moped. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Keeping in mind that I don't know this man and that this is what he said to me within 30 seconds of fucking talking to me. So I was like, oh, okay, strap myself in because this could be a kooky conversation. And then anyway, so I asked him, what else did I ask him? I was like, yeah, oh yeah. And he goes, yeah, I work 2 jobs. I work Uber Eats and I work as a security guard at Woolies. I was like, oh, there you go. That makes sense why he'd want a fucking moped. And then he said he wanted, he didn't like the car because he doesn't like listening to music and that the music distracts him. And I said, oh, you can turn the music off. He's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I just want to have a moped. And I was like, all right, brother, whatever. And he goes, check out this bike that I'm buying for like $8,000. And he pulls out his phone and he like shows me this fucking moped. And I was like, oh, that's sick, man. And the whole reason, and I'm going to bypass a lot of the shit, but the whole reason he wanted to buy the moped is so that he could smoke weed while he was driving the moped and nobody would notice from the smell. And I sort of questioned him on his logic around that, because his logic was if it's trapped in the car, people will smell it, but if he's smoking while he's riding a bike, no one would smell it. And I feel as though this dude's kind of, he really fucked his logic there. So yeah, and then I like asked him, I was like, oh, what other jobs do you do? And then, man, this dude works like some fucked hours. He works like as an Uber Eats driver from like, I think it was like 6 a.m. till like 5 p.m. And then at 6 o'clock, he starts his security shift at Woolies and he goes all the way through until 4 a.m. So what an animal, but he was just the biggest tripper. And then obviously Kia came out of the shop and he was still talking to me and he was like, oh, hello. And I was like, oh, this is my girlfriend. And he was like, oh, you have a lovely night and I love you. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? It was one of those things where I just turned to Kia as we were walking home and I was just like, that wouldn't happen to anyone besides me, I feel like. Yeah. I don't actually know the point of the story behind that. I think when I wrote it down in my notes, it was better. But you know what? It's my podcast and I legitimately don't care. So fuck yeah. Good on that guy. I guess, hopefully you probably shouldn't smoke and drive, but look, you live your life, bro, whatever you want. I don't care, but that was fascinating. Alrighty, let's look at number 2 on my notes. Here's a great one. When I started talking to Qaude Cooper and I got nervous and ended up looking like an idiot. Now, I'm not going to tell you where I saw Qaude Cooper, but I saw Qaude Cooper in his beautiful fucking car. His car is phenomenal. I'm not going to tell you what it is or whatever. But anyway, I saw Qaude Cooper, and I'm a big Qaude Cooper fan. Like, I do like Qaude Cooper, and I listened to his podcast that he did with Isaac Johns on the YKTR podcast, or the ICE Project, and I don't know, I felt like a bit of an asshole, to be honest, after listening to it, because you hear all the news shit about Qaude, and then you hear him talk about what actually went down in terms of like just club stuff, and I don't really know the ins and outs of everything, but I felt like a bit of a dick after I listened to the podcast, because I was like, oh fuck, like, you know, he's a good dude, and the media just painted him in a fucking really odd way. So yeah, anyway, so I saw him, and I genuinely I was like, oh fucking hell, it's Qaude Cooper. Like, the first thing I said to him, he jumped out of his car. I was like, oh holy shit. And then he looked at me like I'd fucking there was something on his car or something, and then I literally said, I panicked, and like, in your head when you meet someone famous, you're like, oh, like, I know what I'll do. Like, I'll just chat to them like they're a normal person. And you have the intention to do that. And then all of a sudden you meet them, you get all fucked up, and you're like, blah, blah, and you just have fucking verbal vomit. Or maybe that's just me, because I'm fucking a kook. But anyway, so I say to him, I was like, hey man, I really enjoy your podcast. I really enjoyed your podcast with Ice. It was awesome, blah, blah, blah. He said, thanks, dude. And realistically, we should have ended, the conversation should have ended there. Like, that should have been, like, I don't know him. And he, like, you know, I could imagine how many people must go up to him and be like, yeah, fucking no quote. And the poor dude's like, oh, g'day, mate. Like, trying not to be an asshole, when in all right, realistically, if someone came up to me like that, I'd be like, who the fuck are you? I wouldn't obviously think that, but if they were like, oh yeah, you know, hermit, I'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, mate. But still, like, you know, there's got to be a point where it's just like, dude, I'm a fucking human, leave me alone. So I should have just walked the fuck away. But no, me being a kook, just being a fucking idiot, I panicked, and I was like, oh, I need to say something else. And then I looked at his car, and then I described his car, like, and I've said this story so many times to some mates. They're like, why the fuck did you use that word? I said, hey man, your car looks brilliant. Like, I could have said sick, fully sick, fucking mad, gnarly, whatever the fuck word you said, but I went and I said, hey man, your car looks brilliant. And I saw his face once the word brilliant came out, and he looked at me like, you sweet, bro? Like, I was just like, why the fuck did I say that? Brilliant. I said brilliant. I said, your car looks brilliant. That's like, brilliant would be if someone like, you know, created a vaccine that works perfectly for coronavirus, right? Brilliant. Brilliant. That's brilliant. You are brilliant. With a car, like, it's just not a fitting word. It doesn't make any sense why brilliant would be the first. I didn't even say brilliant. I think I've described things as brilliant maybe 4 times in my entire life. Yet one of those 4 times was when I was talking about Qaude Cooper's car. Fucking hell, man. Like, this is just fucking... That's the epitome of the hermit, really. Just the epitome of the hermit. And anyway, so every time I see Qaude Cooper at the coffee shop, I shit my pants now, because I'm like, oh, fuck. Hopefully he doesn't remember me as the dude that called his car brilliant. And you think of the funny... Oh, no. Went down the wrong way. Sorry, I'm drinking water. And you think of, like, you know, what he would do. Like, if someone said that to me, I'd go to my mates and be like, dude, it'd be so fucking... Like, this dude just called my car brilliant. What a weird thing to say to someone. So, yeah, that was fun. Calling Qaude Cooper's car brilliant. Anyway, I'm a fucking idiot. How good. Next thing that we need to talk about is, here's one that I'm going to unravel in front of you. I actually don't understand why I wrote this, but here's my chance to make some comedy out of this. Let's give it a fucking crack. When you see someone else's skid marks at a public toilet, maybe I should do that. Maybe you guys can send in some fucking weird scenarios, and I'll just talk about them and see if they relate to me. Do some Whose Line Is It Anyway shit. When you see someone else's skid marks at a public toilet, I actually had this thought. And it was when I went to New Farm Park. I was running through New Farm Park, and I literally got there, and whoever the fuck used the toilet beforehand, I don't know if they were human or some kind of fucking animal, but there was shit everywhere. And you think to yourself, like, what am I looking at? Like, it's so fucked up, realistically, when you're like, public toilets just in general are fucked. Like, where else in the world can you go and be like, oh, there's a small amount of someone else's shit? Like that doesn't ever happen anywhere. Like you don't ever see that. But it's like, you know, when you're in a toilet, it's like, I guess it's common practice. Like you're not, yeah, obviously if someone has been in there, and especially the worst thing is when you walk in after someone, like you go somewhere, like used to happen on work sites all the time. Speaking of fucking jobs that I had before uni, but I used to work in a labouring job, and man, every time I used to fucking use, this dude's name was Tomo. I used to use the toilet, like I don't know, our shit cycles must have just been in sync or something, like the moons have just aligned, or maybe we had coffee at the same time. And fucking Tomo, he was like this 35-year-old dude. I don't even know where he still is, but he was a cooker. But anyway, yeah, he fucking like used to use the toilet before me all the time. And I reckon he literally he must have sat on the toilet in such a fucked way, because I don't think any of the poo that came out would land in the water. Like the water was just irrelevant because it would just be dripped on the side. And I would have to go in after every time. And I'm one of these people, like I think I'm a very courteous person. Like if I did something like that, like if I accidentally, you know, if I accidentally decided to finish my painting apprenticeship, if you get what I mean, I would usually clean it off. But some people just leave it as like a fucking like Easter egg for the next person, like a Kinder Surprise. Like you open up there it is. I don't necessarily want it, but it's there. And fucking Tomo was the worst. It literally just used to, I like some days I would just can it and I'd literally just hold it in because I just couldn't do it. I'd be like, nah, I'll wait for someone else to use it. And then sometimes it would just double up. So, yep, that was my thoughts. Why on earth would I write that down? When you see someone else's skid marks at a public toilet. Apologies if you watch this podcast because you really enjoy the in-depth content and the fantastic conversations, because I'm talking about shit. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Here's another thing for you also. I have really bad hay fever. So shout out to anybody who gets hay fever around coronavirus time, because everyone looks at you like you have AIDS. So I wake up every morning, and I don't know what it is. I've got a really nice herb garden going on. Like my herb garden is flourishing into a beautiful butterfly. But unfortunately, my mint I didn't realize mint could flower into these. They flower into like these little, I guess they look like bottle, like water brush, or they look like, they're like long, thin flowers. I didn't know. But these motherfuckers like give off the worst pollen. So I walk around with like fucked up eyes, and like I have to use Telfast all the time. Shout out to Telfast. The antihistamine. I don't even know what the fuck they're called. But anyway, and when you walk around in the shops and you're like, you know, it's something you can't really, it's only in the morning. So like it probably subsides around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And I get back to normal, but my hay fever plays up massively around this time of year. It's not flu. You can't catch it, but tell you what, I walk around and sometimes I go like I'll sniff, and like I have never been shot down with so many aggressive stares than when I've had hay fever and I sniff. Or sometimes like, you know, I'm type of person, I'm a massive sneezer when hay fever happens. So for example, like I'll sneeze. I think I can sneeze up to like 12 times, an average of 12 times when a big, like, you know, big fucking hay fever thing hits me. And the amount of looks I get when I'm like doing the dab sneeze and the fucking like that sort of shit, like covering my face. But man, I reckon if looks could kill, I would be like a one-man massacre. Like there'd just be like people eyeing me off and all that sort of shit. But yeah, fuck man. Hay fever sucks balls. Like my eyes just puff up. Like I look like I've been stung by a bee in the morning. It's the most. I feel really bad for Kia because she literally rolls over and must look at me like I'm some sort of animal, just like snorting and like that's literally what I sound like when I'm sleeping. So of course this beautiful face looks like shit in the morning. To be fair, it looks like shit all the time, but you know it is what it is. You give what you get what's given to you, and you just make the most of it. So I can sometimes make people laugh, but also I look like a fucking. Like, I look like... I always have this thing where I think my eyes are too close together. Like, I reckon I'm born to be cross-eyed and I've just somehow defied gravity. Like, you ever look in the mirror sometimes and you just think, like, it's not fair? Like I've got a skincare routine now because I just noticed one day that my skin was getting really shitty. I think it might not be sun. I think I don't know. Like I'm even looking at the thumbnail on there and I'm just like, man, your eyes are so close together. And like my nose is a little bit big too. Anyway, this isn't just about me. Yeah, shit. How long are we going for? 25 minutes. All right, that's all right. Fuck, man. Yeah, hay fever sucks though, but you know, it is what it is, and we all keep on going. Yeah, man. Oh, fuck, this feels good. I'm so glad I'm doing this again. I always get really sort of, not disheartened, but I always I love interviewing people. I love getting people on, but there's something, I think I mentioned it, if you look at the Road to 4K, or you listen to the Road to 4K, the Bloody Brilliant Beers podcast, fuck, I really appreciated that. That was really cool. So they got me on essentially because I wouldn't say I inspired, but Darcy and I obviously chat a lot about, content and stuff like that. And I said a podcast is a really good thing. And I guess he sort of stemmed off that idea and has sort of flourished his own podcast, which is essentially what I love. I love hearing that. I love hearing that people want to do it because, I can do it. And even if it's down to like, oh, if he can do it, I think I can do it. That's awesome. I love that. So yeah, I got a really nice feeling when they spoke about it. But there's something about unraveling your thoughts whilst talking, and I guess talking and even just looking at things that I've written, like the notes page there. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually really excited to give you guys that podcast about my life before I was a teacher. So man, I got some stories about jobs, man. My Subway days were the worst. Fucking hated Subway. Subway, like literally working at Subway was so shit. The only thing that got me through working at Subway was obviously I worked with the best people. I feel as though, when you're working in those shitty part-time jobs that you don't really care about, you meet the coolest people. Like I'm still friends with so many of the people that I worked with, at those sort of shitty jobs. So I guess you got to earn your stripes in anything. You got to work some shit jobs before you get the good job. So yeah. How long have we done? 27 minutes. We're pretty much on the home stretch. I might wrap it up now so you guys don't have to listen to more word vomit. But yeah, so a couple announcements for the podcast. We've obviously got a couple podcasts dropping very soon with a couple different guests. Keeping it very music orientated lately. A lot of cool things. I think it's because music just fascinates me. And my next podcast, episode 51, because this is episode 50. I fucking forgot to celebrate. I usually have a party popper and a pop-it, but we're halfway to 100, you fucking legends. And if you have been following the podcast ever since day dot, I really appreciate it. I honestly do. It means the world to me. And, I hope you get something out of it. I hope it's that break in your day or your life that you enjoy and that you look forward to. So I really appreciate that. But like I said, we're not stopping. Episode 51 on the way with a music producer. I'll explain him when obviously the podcast is released, and then a couple more in the books that I'm excited about too, and just some general chat with my mates, which I love. Like the ones I do with my mates are the funnest ones, and I really can't wait till all this Corona shit. And so I can actually get them back into like the Hermit studio and get it going. So that's it, guys. You know what it is. It's the Inner City Hermit podcast where anything goes and I am the boss and I can do whatever the fuck I want. But also it's about you guys, and I hope that you resonate with any of the shit that I say and all that sort of jazz. But yeah, I fucking love you all. So, it is what it is. We're going to get through this. Make sure you tell your friends that you love them. It's not, you don't have to feel ashamed to tell your mates that you love them, guys. I know I miss my mates more than anything in the world, and I miss the pub more than anything in the world. So, like I said, we're going to get through this. Support your local. Support anything local. If you're making money right now, be conscious. Go out, buy a coffee from the local coffee shop, or go out and, I don't know, when you're at Woolies, next time you're at Woolies, tell the guy who's running the cash register that you appreciate what he's doing, because I feel like those guys get a bit of a shit rap sometimes in the job. So just be kind to everybody. And you know what, guys? Just have a great whatever. Whenever you're listening to this, just be good, be whatever, be great. All right. Peace out, guys. Love you all. See you later.